Hello, everyone. You are listening to the Conscious Culinary Podcast, and I'm your host, Tracy Clark, wellness chef extraordinaire. See, when you have your own podcast, you get to introduce yourself whatever way you want. So who knows what it'll be next time. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to be here. Last time I recorded 2 shows at a time, so I didn't have to come back right away. And I have to say, I kind of missed it. So I'm really happy to be back here talking to you guys. And if you are listening, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I know you're out there and I know that you're listening, and you can always drop some comments. Let me know how you're doing. We started the year off talking a lot about intentions and what we wanted for the year. And I'm curious how that's all going for you guys. How's it working out? I know for me, it's been a little bit like this, up and down, up and down. But I think, here we are about midway into spring, and I think I've kind of figured myself out. I'm on a good path, and I have a really good show for you today. So what are we talking about? This is going to be super cool. I have been wanting to get in and record this episode for a while now because I'm hoping that you guys are going to listen to it, and you're going to get at least one little perspective on food that makes you go, that's a cool idea. Never thought about it that way. And hopefully it just inspires you to be more open to get in that kitchen and cook up some good food. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about 5 meals to get you meditating. 5 meditative meals. So I don't think we've done a show or we have been so representative of the show's name, Conscious Culinary. We are bringing mindfulness to your life through food. So we're very on point today with that. So what it's going to be is I'm not actually giving recipes. If we're all out there being our conscious eaters, thinking about what's right for us, if it tastes good, feels good, and we feel good about it, you got to do you. So I'm not going to get too into actual recipes. I'm just going to talk about the intention behind the recipe, because that's really what meditation is. It's breathing with an intention, right? If we really want to say what it basically is. And we're going to talk more about what meditation is, because before we jump into how to meditate with food, I just kind of want to lay the frame of how I see meditation and what I think some of the goals are, what some of the different ways are that you can meditate. And we're going to look at what some of the tools are that people use when meditating. And that's going to really be such a great segue into then using food for meditation, because we're going to understand, okay, if this is what meditation is and these are the tools, then preparing a meal is absolutely very, at least mindful, if not meditative. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that. But before we start the show, we've got to do our card of the day. We started doing this a few episodes back. We're going to choose a card from my Ayurveda deck. Ayurveda being a very beautiful way of looking at a holistic wellness lifestyle, looking at the body as a mind, body, and soul, and using food and behavioral practices to not only cure disease, but prevent disease and really keep us thriving and enjoying life. So I love learning about it, and what better way to learn about something than through a deck of cards? It's always so cool. So these are it's called The Guiding Elements, an Ayurvedic Path. So we're going to pick a card and see what beautiful wisdom comes to us today. And if you have a deck, whether they're straight up tarot cards or you have your own deck, maybe there's a lot of really beautiful herb cards out there, so you can start learning about different herbal medicinal plants. There's cards out there that can just keep you inspired. I love The Universe Has Your Back deck. You pick a card and it just has something really beautiful and inspiring. So all different kind of ways to enhance your life with a deck of cards. And this one is no different. So if you happen to be using any kind of deck and you're like, what do I do? Just pick a card. What I like to do is cut the cards to the left and just kind of say to myself, I honor the past. I cut my cards to the right. I honor the future. And I just try to come into the center deck and really come into the present and be ready to receive some beautiful wisdom. What do we have today? Aromatic Awakening. Oh, what could that be? This book is divided into their 4 sections, which are the 4 elements. So each element has a bit of a different energy to it. Aromatic Awakening. Scents are soothing or stimulating. Cultivate what your soul seeks through this pleasing sense therapy. Explore what method brings you most in balance, along with which sense you may notice you need an extra boost in your workspace. Wait. Explore what methods bring you most in balance, along with which sense. You may notice you need an extra boost in your workspace, something to stimulate you when your energy levels begin to dip. Or maybe you feel lethargic upon waking and want something to inspire you to get out of bed. Whether you are stressed, anxious, melancholic, or angry, scents can be incorporated to shift your mood. Pay attention to your environment and your mood, then use your sense of smell to shift the atmosphere. Play with your tool of preference, diffusers, candles, herbs, incense, or even smudge sticks, especially useful for clearing negative, stale energy. Each scent has its own benefit and purpose. Explore which scents draw your attention and which can bring balance to your needs. Incorporate this peaceful nostril inhalation with meditation or randomly throughout the day, depending on your intentions and needs. Enjoy familiarizing yourself with the appreciated essence and effects of these medicines. Use a bathtub or a bin for a foot soak and enjoy a scented bath. Enjoy an extra bonus by using infused abhyanga oil afterwards. Ooh, abhyanga oil. Abhyanga is Ayurvedic massage, self-massage, which is one of those daily practices I told you about. That's part of their approach to a healthy life. So I love that one, Aromatic Awakening, and it's appropriate because we're going to talk about how aromas and using our sense of smell can be really helpful when we're trying to meditate. So what a great little segue it was there. Thank you, cards. Learn something new every day. So we're diving into it. Okay, where to begin, you guys? I don't even have any notes. Look at me. I'm just flying off the cuff. Is that how you say it? I'm just going off the cuff. Here we go. This is just straight from the heart, straight from my experience as of late, looking at food and really connecting with it in new ways. And that's what I want to share with you guys. So the 5 meals to get you meditating. Let's talk about meditation first. I did kind of define it there a few minutes ago. It's really basically breathing with intention, right? That's what meditating is. And I was introduced to meditating probably about 15 years ago, but I would say it's within the last 5 that I really began connecting with it and getting a lot out of it. And I think part of that was due to me understanding meditation a lot more and understanding myself a lot more. I think both of those came into play, and that's why I love talking about meditation with other people, because there are some obstacles, I think, that keep people away from it. We're going to talk about that too, but first off, a little bit more on what meditation is. Here's a great metaphor I love to use for meditation. So you know that game that you can buy, that it's these huge goggles that go on your face, and then you're in a video game and it's like 3D, it's real. You feel like you're right there. I feel like when I look at life, I feel like we're these souls, these beautiful pure light souls who come to this earth to have an experience. And so we take one of those goggles and we put it on, and that goggle is already preset and says, okay, you're going to come in and you're going to be this color, and your hair is going to be this color, and your family is going to look like this, and you're going to have this much money to your name, and you're going to have these strengths and these weaknesses, right? You're going to come into life, and this is going to be what you get. So you put on the goggles and you come down, and now you're experiencing life. And when you want to meditate, what you kind of do in a way is you just take those goggles off for a bit, and you set it down, and you remind yourself that your emotions that you feel that are a reaction to the experiences that you have, do not define who you are. You are still this bright light, this amazing, beautiful soul. Sometimes we just need to take a little break from all the things that we're feeling and recognize that it doesn't define us. And when we begin to understand that, we begin to come back into our own control and to recognize that when we do have an experience that leads to an emotion, we get to make the decision about what the action is after that. How do we want to process that? We have control, and meditation gives us that control by just saying, hey, take a break. Remind yourself of who you are and feel all the feels that you really want to be feeling in this moment because you deserve it. So if you're looking for love, if you're looking for peace, if you're looking for motivation, if you're looking for happiness, call that in while you're taking that break. You fill yourself up with that energy. And as you return to life, you put that mask back on, those goggles back on, you still exude that energy and you call that energy back to you. And somehow, after we take a moment to meditate, we just do life better. And that's why I think it's really important that we have it. Let's talk about that. Why is meditation so important? Well, it's that third piece of the puzzle. I told you, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, a lot of them out there, they agree we are a mind, a body, and a soul. So if we're trying to approach life and have overall health and feel good, then we need to, yes, eat a good diet. Yes, exercise the body. Yes, we should have something that we believe in that connects us to our hearts, to each other, to the meaning of life. But we have to work on our mental health as well. And I don't think we're really, as a society, putting much attention on it. And therefore, we're struggling because we're not getting that balance of care. And this is my idea of why we're having such a hard time with mental health currently. And it comes back to those four elements. It comes back with our need for nature, our need to be in nature. If you look at the four elements, they are vital for life, right? You look at air. No air, death within minutes, right? We cannot go with air. I mean, it is like air is life. Water. Few days, 3 days, done. No life if you have no water. If we didn't have fire, if we didn't have the sun, there would be no life on earth, correct? So these elements, we need them so much. And when we look at earth, it's a little bit more of a slow death, right? Because it's not immediate. And we're starting to see the effects of cutting ourselves off from this element, which is earth, in ways of just plainly wearing shoes around all the time. You know, we're not even putting our feet on the ground. We are driving around in our cars. We're in our house. We're on our patio. We're in our shoes. We're on our bike. We don't have to grow our own vegetables. We have them at the store. In fact, now we don't even have to go to the store and pick out our own vegetables. It just comes directly to the front step, right? So we're lessening our connection with nature. We've got these big cities, and now it's almost really hard for people to find time just to get out into nature. But we know we love it when we do, right? And I think it was okay for a bit because we were still eating the food, right? We're still eating the food. So we are still getting that healing energy. However, now when we look at what's offered in the grocery stores and what's offered, fast food and things that are quick and cheap, not really the best sources of food. And not everybody, but there are people out there who are eating predominantly man-made foods. They're not eating fresh vegetables and seeds and herbs and legumes. They're just eating things that are flash frozen, heated up in the microwave, that have no energy, no life to them, that are in a fancy package that was made for profit, not for nourishing your body. That's what a lot of people's diets are consisting of. And so now not only are we not getting into nature, but we're not even eating nature. And I think it's that slow death of us feeling more and more out of touch with Mother Earth. We know we need air. We know we need water. We know we need fire. Why are we missing the cues that we need Earth? And so if today. Go out there, put your feet in the ground, get yourself some good energy from the earth, and think about what you're eating. We need to be eating the food of the earth. It's a whole great reason why we should be motivated to make more things from scratch and get in the kitchen. Forget about losing weight and I have to be a certain size, or I have to, be in this certain diet category. I have to eat a certain way. Forget that. How about I need to heal and nourish my body and keep me happy and sane. So I need to eat fresh, whole foods so that I can be my best, because I need it, just like I need fresh air to breathe, just like I need clean water. I need to eat the food of the earth. It's really important. And through doing that, as we're going to talk about today, you can actually put a little bit more intention in your food, and that's going to help you connect with your food and yourself and the people around you so much more. And once again, we're really talking about conscious culinary, mindful eating, right? That takes your diet from something that has to be managed and moves it into something that can truly be embraced. That's lifestyle change. That's what I'm trying to promote here, people. So if that's meditation, let's go into how mainstream media talks about meditation, because I think there's a little bit of a problem in that. Think about the last time you saw meditation depicted in a movie or in a commercial or whatever. Probably you're going to see a person who either might look something like a monk or somebody out of like India somewhere, and they've got, all the garb on that you're like, oh, wow, they're really meditating there. It's like it's instant. We just see the image. Or it's somebody who looks like they do yoga regularly. They look svelte. They look toned. They look beautiful, right? They have this beautiful posture. Think about where this person is. They're probably so often depicted in a beautiful garden, right? Maybe a temple, or they're by the ocean, or they're on top of a mountain. They're looking at this beautiful view. Right there is a problem, because what we do naturally, and people in marketing would agree, is as soon as we see that, we look at that person and we think, that's not me, right? I'm not a monk. I'm not a yogi. So that's not me. I don't see myself in that person. And then also, gosh, if I'm supposed to be meditating, I don't have a garden like that. I can't get to a lookout spot. All of a sudden, we've painted meditation in its highest form, right? It's like, let's depict meditation in its most glorious, beautiful form, where you've got somebody who's been practicing for years. They look beautiful, or they just look they look dynamic, they look magical, they look mindful, they look spiritual. There's all the elements that say to us, this person is meditating. They're in this beautiful place. And this is like the highest form of meditation. You can see it there, like they're connected to this other subconscious world, right? Or a higher consciousness. And we look at this and we can't help, but even if we don't say it to ourselves out loud, that's not us. I can't do that, right? I don't have all those elements, and that's just not for me. And it's kind of, I think about it as, a little kid saying, I want to play in the NBA, and all you do is play them the video of LeBron James, and you're like, well, here, this is basketball. Like, if that's the only way you ever saw basketball was, the NBA, how are you ever going to feel as a child that you could do that? You have to see other people doing it, learning how to play basketball. You have to see other kids learning how to play basketball on your level. And then you go, oh, I get it. Okay, this LeBron James is the best of the best. Now I see it. Okay, we don't start there. And when we depict meditation as this monk in a beautiful temple garden reaching higher consciousness, people don't relate with that. What we need to see is the mom with the messy bun in her messy house with her kids screaming, who sits down on the couch and just breathes it out and gives herself a few encouraging words like, Hashtag that's meditation. Like, we need to start an Instagram account and like have people taking pictures of themselves truly meditating, right? Whether you're standing in the line at the bank or you're sitting in your car in traffic or you're sitting there no matter where you are, but you know that you don't want to make a certain decision, but you're feeling really tempted to, and you do something that gets you back connected to yourself. We want to see a shot of what that looks like. That's real. That's meditation. It's a tool that you use that you connect with yourself so that you can perform at your highest. That's what we're trying to do. And so just the way that media portrays it, I think sometimes it can be a little bit of can create a little static there going, I don't know if that's for me. It is for you. That's just a very fancy version. It's a great version, but it's not what it's all about. So what is meditation? What are some of the ways you can do it? I mean, basically sit down and breathe. Just connect with that breath. It is incredible what 3 deep breaths can do for you. Knowing that, can you imagine 10 deep breaths? That is a great tool. If ever you're wondering what to do, I'm not sure, I don't know how to make a certain decision, I don't know how to move forward, do I go do this, do I go do that? 10 deep cleansing breaths where all you're focusing on is the way it sounds and the way your body feels, taking those breaths, and then come back to that problem. I promise you, you're going to have a different perspective. It's just the way it works. It's really quite magical. And again, this is why I love talking about it, because I spent 10 years trying to do that, what I saw in the posters, right? Trying to be so zenned out and trying to be in a super beautiful place. And, you know, that's just, I wasn't connecting. I really wasn't doing it because I wasn't just listening to myself and being with my thoughts and being encouraging and loving and really just trying to unravel those layers and get to the core of who I am. Once I started focusing on that, mind blowing, I'm addicted now. So just sitting down and taking a breath, you don't have to sit down anytime, anywhere, connecting with your breath. Another thing we can do is visually, you can look at something. I mean, looking at the ocean, looking at the water, looking at a little waterfall just on your little desk there is great. Looking at a flame can be really good. So focusing on something. Another way of meditating is doing something crafty, doing something artistic, right? You don't have to be an artist to do something crafty or do something that's artful and still feel good about yourself and competent. But what it does is whenever we're tying our brain up with a task, we're not so focused on some of those other thoughts that we might need a break from, some things that cause anxiety or stress or anger or whatever, that kind of weigh us down. When we focus on a craft or an activity that truly fulfills us, right? Something that we really love to do, then that can be meditative, right? What are some other ways that people meditate? Chanting and singing, playing music. I mean, playing music is a really cool way to meditate, and also can be kind of that craftiness too, right? You're just so focused, your mind can't focus on the other things that you need a break from. So lots of different ways that we can meditate, a lot of different ways that we can just kind of get our minds focused on something, connecting with ourselves. That's a big element of meditation, just connecting with who you are and feeling good about who you are. That's key. Even if you don't feel good about who you are, take a break and call that energy in. You can do that. We're very magical people. In fact, praying is, I think, a form of meditating. It's just maybe a little bit more focused on that specific God or maybe a certain thing that you're saying, and you have that energy in your heart. But people always talk about, the power of prayer. And yes, it's powerful because it's the power of the people. It's the power of your intention. It's the power of your love. And when, as a collective, you can sit down and put your focus on something together, you can change the world. So absolutely, prayer is a form of meditation, a very powerful form of meditation. So with that being said, what are some of the tools that people use to meditate? Well, it comes down to, like I said, trying to connect with yourself. And a really great way to get into the moment and connect is to come into your 5 senses. So you want to try and find things that you can have an experience with, similar to our card today, Aromatic Awakening, right? The way that we smell things just sends messages to the brain, and we can change our mood and call in a certain energy simply by smelling a certain thing. It takes a little bit of practice here and there to try and find what you like, but once you find the scent that you like that conjures up that certain feeling you're looking for, then you're on your way. So it's not just what we smell, but it's what we hear and what we see and what we feel and what we taste. And so what people do in order to stimulate the five senses is, lo and behold, they use the four elements. Talking about those four elements again, right? The four elements is life. That's one of my things that I love. The more I learn about Ayurveda and cooking and herbology and astroherbology, which I'm learning about now, it's just all about the four elements. They just keep coming into play. And so I really love talking about them. And when we look at meditation, they are like the cornerstones of meditation because people use the four elements all the time to help create those five senses experiences so that they can come into their body and get into that meditative state. It's kind of like you make this special room in your mind, and the more that you tend to this personal practice that is meditation, you create that space and it's a lot easier to access it and come back to it every time. So again, it's a personal practice. You can get better at it. You're not just going to sit down and have some amazing awakening experience the first time you do it. But it will come. And it's just, like I said, it's that commitment to yourself to just personally work on your practice. So with that being said, where was I? So we use the four elements to help us meditate. So what would that look like? First off, fire. We light stuff. We light a candle to look at, or we light the incense, or we light a smudge stick or some Palo Santo. There's all different kinds. My personal favorite is some Palo Santo. It's like a piece of wood. They come in these little sticks, and it's a ceremonious wood, and you light it and let it burn for a bit. And it's to call in some good energy. And I really love to use it when I get to that point where I'm like, okay, I need a pivot. Like, what are we doing now? I just finished one task. What do we do now? And sometimes I get a little lost in that moment. And I'm like, what do we do now? I light a little Palo Santo, and then I just kind of like come into the moment a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, now let's do the dishes. Need a little motivation there. So you light something, and again, you might be looking at the fire using that audio sense or that visual sense. You might be smelling something that you lit, which is that smelling sense. People listen to music. They also listen to water. So now it's audio. Using water is a huge one that can be so relaxing for people, or just looking at water as well. Water and fire. It's amazing, right? How you can just stare at the ocean or stare at the fire and be lost and not feel like you're doing nothing. You actually feel really incredible. Like, there's a reason that is. We have to listen to that, realize that. There's a reason why we love looking at the ocean and at fire, because they're the two of the core elements that we need for life. And so something inside of us just innately is attracted to it and feels at home when we're watching it. So some other ways that we use the elements, when we look at earth, we use stones and crystals and things like that, or like the Palo Santo or the sage. We're using the earth. We're connecting with earth. People use things that they find, rocks or pieces of wood or feathers. A lot of people will use feathers to represent that air element in their meditation. So we're smelling things, we're listening to things, we're focused on things, we can taste things, right? There's a lot of drinks that can be ceremonious. You could just make yourself some tea. There's cacao, whole ceremonies done with cacao. There's a lot of really cool drinks out there that you can make in a bit of a ritual way of kind of creating this drink with intention and coming to it and experiencing all of your senses as you have this drink just kind of helps you get to that space you create in your mind. So with all of that being said, okay, so now we know what meditation is. We get it. We need to take a break. We need to work on ourselves, connect with ourselves. We're using the 4 elements. We're using connecting with our body through the 5 senses. So when we look at making a meal, let's look at making a meal, right? First off, you've got the whole foods, the herbs, the spices, you've got it all in your hands, right? Similar to those crystals that people use. Now you actually have things of the earth that have energy, that have a vibration. You've got your tomato in hand, your avocado in hand, and you're actually absorbing the energy of the earth already, right? Before you even eat it. So you're using the earth, you've got your hands on it, and that's really healing just in itself, something we don't really think about too often, right? We're just like, now I've just got to chop these vegetables. It's like, well, actually, it's kind of cool. Your body's going to really enjoy it because you're getting hands on the earth. The other thing is our sense of smell, right? We're already sensing our smells if we can, we're sensing our smells. We're already getting into our sense of smell when we, pick a leaf off of the fresh herbs and we're smelling it, we're crushing it in our hands, we're feeling it. We're like, man, this is some beautiful food here. This is so great. And you're smelling it. And then what do? You bring the fire element into it because we got to get the stove burning. We got to get the barbecue going. And doesn't everything get more exciting when we want to barbecue it? It's like, oh, we're going to cook it over an open fire. It kind of gets you excited and it tastes so good. Once again, it's that fire element that we just love. People, we can't get away from it. So we got to cook our food. And then we've got, the water element. We use water to cook our food most often in a lot of ways. So we've got that going. Maybe we're drinking some water, aka wine. You never know. Always have to have a little drink when you're having some food. But we're using these elements, right? Just like in meditation, we're connecting with our sense of smell and our sense of touch and our vision of how beautiful the food is. And then we're listening, right, to how hot the pan is. And is the oven going off? Is the timer up? Is the oven preheated, right? We're listening as well. We're in tune with all of our senses as we're trying to make a meal. What's going on? What's next? I love trying to test the pan with a little bit of onion. This is a great tip. Whenever you're about to saute your onions, you want the pan to be the best temperature, not too hot, not too cool. And so I will take just a few little diced up onions and throw it in the pan until I hear that perfect tss. If it's too much, you're like, ooh, too much heat, bring it on down. Or if you hear nothing, you're like, okay, we're not ready yet. So again, you're connecting with your audio, your visual, your just everything, your taste, and you're totally into it. That's what happens when you make a meal. Pretty cool shit. That's all I'm going to say. Pretty cool. So I think you've seen now that making a meal most certainly is meditative. It helps you connect. And I'm going to get into the 5 meals that can bring mindfulness to your life. Okay. We're actually ready to do it. That's why I booked so much time in the studio, because I knew to even get to this point, we had to cover a lot of material so that we're all on the same page. So the first meditative meal, super easy. Anybody can do it. It's a cup of tea. That's it. A cup of tea. But how cool is a cup of tea, right? Like, let's think about it. As I learned more about plant medicine and herbology and things like that, I can't help but think about the little villages, hundreds of years ago, in some places of the world, probably not that long ago, or they're still operating like this, where when you would get sick, whether it was, a scrape or a sickness or a depression or a heartache, didn't matter what it was that was ailing you, you went to your local doctor, your local shaman, your local witch, your local herbologist, right? Like, you went to that old person in the neighborhood who lived on the edge of town who made a bunch of stuff from plants, right? You went to them and they made you a tea. And that was the way that people healed you. And it's one of the most common, easiest ways to extract some medicine from a plant and help somebody out. So it's not just about, oh, yeah, having a cup of tea. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, sounds so special. But think about where it stems from. Think about what we're really trying to do. We're not just trying to make something delicious to drink. We're trying to extract certain properties from plants that are going to have a positive effect on our body. That's what we're doing. And so you can do anything from throwing a tea bag into a cup of hot water to looking in your spice cabinet and gathering just some basic whole seeds like fennel seeds and black pepper and whole cinnamon sticks, cardamom pods, all of those things like cloves, and fresh nutmeg. Those things can be straight out of your spice cabinet and into your cup of tea. No bag, no straining, just ready to go. And in fact, we are in spring, and so I will give you a little recipe. A really cool tea is lemon, black pepper, and ginger. That's like your spring trifecta: lemon, black pepper, and ginger. And so you simply take maybe 5 black peppercorns, throw it in maybe about 2 cups of hot water, and I'll do my potato peeler on a lemon, and I'll just peel off a big chunk of lemon peel and squish it up and throw that in the cup. And then some fresh ginger. I don't peel it or anything. I just chop, maybe about, 3 to 5 slices, depending on how big they are. Throw it in your cup. You could fill that up with hot water 3 times guaranteed, if not 5, throughout the day and still have a really beautiful, well-rounded tea. It's amazing how the spiciness of the ginger and the spiciness of the black pepper and the tartness of the lemon, like they all come together and they just round each other out, and it's really cool. Now, I got a little off topic because I wanted to give you that recipe. It's amazing. It will blow your mind how delicious that tea is, and it's so simple. And I mean, we're talking pennies, right, to create that meal. Well, maybe not, unless you get your lemons from a really good source. Lemons can be really expensive. But the other thing about a tea is that it's a really simple way to hold space for somebody else who might be hurting. So I always I'm not a huge TV watcher of The Big Bang Theory, but I do love how Sheldon, if you watch that show, this character Sheldon always offers people a cup of tea. Like that's just been ingrained in him. He's like, he knows, like if you're feeling blue, I offer you tea. And I really love it because I'm like, what a great thing to just instill in us and remind us that if somebody's having a hard day, whether it's your family member or it's your neighbor or it's yourself, a healing cup of tea to just say, hey, I see where you're at. It's justified. Let me make you a warm cup of something. And it's kind of like a little warm hug on the inside of just saying, I want to create this space for you to feel your feelings and know that you're accepted. How beautiful is that? And so simple. So there's your first meal. Just a simple cup of tea. That's all it takes. Meal number 2. Creating a healing meal for somebody else. Okay, so this makes me think of, since I'm a mom and I have young kids and a bunch of friends who have small kids as well, right? As you do, you become moms, you get mom friends. Making a meal for a woman who just had a baby can be a really cool way of making a healing meal for somebody else. Also, classically, somebody's sick. A lot of people getting sick these days. So maybe you don't want to bring them food if it's COVID. But when people aren't feeling well, being able to bring them, something like just some chicken noodle soup or some broth, right? Or anything like a puree would be really nice, especially if they had a sore throat. But again, this is why I don't want to get into the recipes. What you're doing is you're putting your love and your time into creating something. And when they eat that meal, they're going to be digesting a lot more than those ingredients. They're going to feel that love. They're going to notice that time that you took to do something for them. And that's going to forge a bond. It's going to help you connect. It's going to enrich your life. And also, when we start looking at food in this way and going, I want to make something really nice for this person. They're not doing well. They're ill, or they just had a baby. They're healing. Then we don't want to just go and do anything, right? We're like, we want to make something really good. And all of a sudden our standard for what we want to choose goes up, right? Because there's this other intention around it. It's not just about what am I going to eat that's the right number of calories and is it staying inside this box? No, it goes a lot deeper than that. It goes, how can I bring love and healing and nutrition to somebody that I love? And they're going to feel it. So that's your second meal. Meal number 2 or number 3 is really similar, but yet, I think it's probably going to be the least popular. Making a healing recipe for yourself. That's a concept, right? And what I'd like for you to do is to think, what would you make for yourself if you had to make a healing meal for yourself? Number one, a lot of people won't do this because they don't think that spending time doing something solely for themselves is a good use of their time. And I want to say, if you're thinking that, we need to look at that and examine that and say, why not? Why is it not okay to do something for yourself? To take time and effort and money solely for the benefit of yourself. We have this stigma in society that says that's selfish, but what that is, that's self-care. That's what you're doing. You're looking out for yourself and taking care of yourself. So think about that. And the other thing that goes hand in hand with making a healing recipe for yourself is you have to get in tune with yourself too, right? And you kind of have to go, well, what is it that I need? And that in itself could be a way of really changing your perspective on food. When you go, well, what is it that I need? Well, I don't know. What is it that I feel? What is it that's not working for me? What's out of balance? All of a sudden we're looking inward a little bit and kind of going, if I could feel better, how would I feel better? And then the idea that we might be able to do that for ourselves just reminds us that we do possess a lot of wisdom for keeping ourselves healthy and on track. We just need to listen to ourselves a little bit more. So try it. Even if it's a cup of tea, try a healing meal for yourself. Meal number 4. To get you meditating. This is a meal outside. How simple is that? Just go outside with your meal, make a picnic. And I don't just mean going to the back deck because that's enjoyable. I love it. I mean a little bit more, energy, a little more, give a little bit more here. Let's go to a park. Let's go to a clearing somewhere up in the mountains. We, even tying a hike into it and hiking somewhere and then getting your food out and eating in nature. Again, it's those 5 senses that you're going to connect with. You're, sitting on the ground, getting that energy of the earth and feeling that healing vibration while you're eating good food, and just being outdoors can be so magical, and it just breaks it up a bit, right? Breaks up the monotony of life and eating. So that's your 4th meditative meal. Go outside. And then the 5th one is really cool. So there's 2 parts of it. So you could do both parts, or you could actually separate these into 2 different meals. But the idea is what the journey of your food is. So try to create a meal that uses food that you've grown. Maybe if you have a little herb garden somewhere, you got some thyme or some basil. If you've got the basil plant from the store, that's cheating. You're like, oh, here's my beautiful basil plant. I just got it Safeway. No, if there's anything you're legitimately growing, let's try to incorporate that in your meal, or going to a farmer's market, or going to one of those like you pick orchards or berry farms, or something where you're actually going and getting the food. Can be really cool because you're connecting with your meal hours, possibly days, before you even begin to prepare it. And I think that's really cool, right? Because so many of us have we've kind of forgotten where food comes from. So that's the second part of this 5th meditative meal, is once you gather all the ingredients, trying to use as much as you can that you've sourced yourself. Then before we go down to sit down to eat our meal, we're going to think about the journey of this meal. And this can be really great when you're with a group of people, because each person could maybe take a different ingredient and then share what their little story is of that food. And so, for example, let's say you went to the orchard and you got some apples and you came home and you're going to make this apple pie. You're thinking about the apples. Like, first off, I think about that apple orchard. How many generations is that apple orchard? How long has that tree been providing fruit? How many families did that apple orchard provide for? That tree that provided those apples has been paying for school books and shoes and nights out and date nights and gas in the car and all of it for how many generations? That's really cool to me to think about that. And then this particular apple that wound up in my apple pie, had to be picked by somebody, and it had to be put in a crate, and it had to be run through a machine to wash it and separate it, and it had to be loaded on a truck, and then somebody had to drive that truck and deliver it, and somebody had to take it off the truck and then put it onto the actual shelf at the Safeway so that I could go. Safeway's getting a lot of plugs here today. So that I could go to the store and pick it off the shelf. To me, that just makes me feel a lot more appreciative of my food, and it helps me become a lot more connected. And it's a lot of fun to play that game until you come to an ingredient or to a part of your meal that you're like, I don't know, was this created in a lab? I see, conveyor belts, and I see machines, and I see mass production, and then it's freezer dried, and or anyway, whatever the term is, freeze dried. And all these things happen to it. And pretty soon the story just becomes so much less romantic. So again, the cool thing about these meals, these meditative meals, is it just takes your mind out of the rut of like, what should we eat? What should we do? Is it healthy? Is it, is so-and-so going to like it? What are the macronutrients? What are the micronutrients? Like, is it vegan? Is it gluten-free? I mean, if you have an allergy or a strong conviction, then most certainly you're your own conscious eater, right? You do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, I just say, it's, get out of that mind frame and really just connect with yourself, with your soul, with whoever else you want to include in this meal. Connect with Mother Nature, connect with that earth element that we need so much, and raise your vibration of what you're doing with your meals. Because now, no matter what we create, we are going to get a return on that investment. We're going to get a return on that time and that love that we took to create that meal by creating a stronger connection with that person we made it for, creating a stronger connection with ourselves, creating space for our family to come together where memories are made and conversations are had, and we check in with everybody. This is the power that food possesses. And when we start raising our consciousness about what food can be, then we stop with the cycle of trying to fit into a box, lose weight, eat the right amount of calories, all this stuff that is just never quite stays true and stays in our routine, and we lose it, and then we get right back into that cycle of saying, I'm not doing a good job, I need to change the way I eat, I need to be better, and we try again, and we hold on to these crazy diets. I'm over it. And if you're over it too, I think this is a really cool way to connect with yourself and connect with food by trying to bring an intention into your meal. It's going to benefit you in ways beyond simple nutrition for your body. And it's going to naturally guide you to make better decisions as well, because you're going to want to have these better meals because you're deeply rooted to the meaning of what it is. So that's 49 minutes, you guys. That's why we had a big one today. I had so much I wanted to share with you, and I hope that you took something from this podcast that just made you go, yeah, I've never thought of it that way. Maybe I'll give that a try. So I hope you're doing well, and I will be with you next time. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment if you can. Until then, stay healthy.